Every single day, companies make decisions that affect millions of people, and most of those decisions have nothing to do with profit margins or quarterly reports. They have everything to do with ethics. And here is the surprising part. The businesses that prioritize ethics almost always outperform the ones that do not. So why do so many companies still get it wrong? Welcome. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to understand exactly why ethics matter in business, what happens when companies ignore them, and how ethical behavior actually creates long-term success. Whether you are a student, a future entrepreneur, or just someone who wants to understand the world around you, this is going to change how you see every business decision you encounter. Let us get into it. Section 1. What business ethics actually means. Most people hear the phrase business ethics and immediately think it is just about not lying or not stealing, but it is so much bigger than that. Business ethics is the application of ethical principles and moral standards to business activities, relationships, and decisions. It covers everything: how a company treats its employees, how it markets its products, how it handles customer data, how it deals with suppliers, and how it impacts the broader community and environment. Here is the key distinction that most people miss. Ethics and the law are not the same thing. Something can be completely legal and still be deeply unethical. A company can legally pay workers the bare minimum wage, while those workers cannot afford basic necessities. A company can legally use misleading advertising that technically does not cross into fraud. Legal does not automatically mean right. That gap between what is allowed and what is actually right, that is exactly where business ethics lives. Ethics in business also exists at multiple levels. There is the individual level, where each employee makes personal choices about honesty and integrity. There is the organizational level, where company culture and leadership set the tone. And there is the societal level, where businesses collectively shape the world we all live in. All three levels matter, and they all interact with each other constantly. So if ethics is more complex than just following the rules, you might be wondering, where does it actually come from? What shapes an ethical business culture? That is exactly what we are exploring next. Section 2. The foundations of ethical decision-making. Ethical decisions in business do not happen in a vacuum. They are shaped by a combination of personal values, organizational culture, and external pressures. Understanding these foundations helps explain why some businesses consistently do the right thing, while others constantly find themselves in scandal. Personal values are the starting point. Every person who walks into a workplace brings their own moral compass, built from upbringing, education, religion, culture, and life experience. When a manager has to decide whether to report a safety issue that might cost the company money, their personal values play a huge role in what they choose to do. But personal values alone are not enough, because organizations can override individual conscience. That is where organizational culture comes in. Culture is the set of shared beliefs, norms, and practices that define how a company actually operates day to day. And research consistently shows that the tone at the top, meaning the behavior and attitudes of senior leadership, is the single most powerful force shaping ethical culture. When leaders cut corners, employees learn that cutting corners is acceptable. When leaders model integrity, employees follow. Then there are external pressures: competition, financial stress, investor expectations. These are the forces that tempt companies to compromise their values. A business facing bankruptcy might be tempted to hide losses. A sales team under intense pressure to hit targets might be tempted to mislead customers. Understanding these pressures does not excuse unethical behavior, but it helps explain how good people sometimes make terrible choices. Now that we understand where ethical decisions come from, we need to talk about what actually happens when businesses get it wrong. The consequences are bigger than most people realize. Section 3. The real cost of unethical behavior. Here is something that might surprise you. The financial cost of unethical business behavior is staggering. Fraud alone costs the global economy trillions of dollars every year. But the money is actually the smallest part of the story. Think about some of the most famous corporate scandals in history: Enron, WorldCom, Volkswagen's emissions cheating scandal, Wells Fargo's fake accounts scandal. In every single one of these cases, the companies did not just lose money, they lost something far more valuable. They lost trust. And once trust is gone, it is extraordinarily difficult to rebuild. Trust is the invisible foundation that every business relationship is built on. Customers trust that products do what they say. Employees trust that they will be treated fairly. Investors trust that they are getting accurate information. When that trust is broken, customers leave, employees quit, investors pull out, and regulators move in. The ripple effects can destroy a company entirely. There are also serious human costs that often get overlooked. Unethical behavior harms real people. Employees who lose their jobs and pensions, customers who are deceived, communities that suffer environmental damage, and small suppliers who get exploited by powerful corporations. Ethics is not abstract. It has consequences for actual human lives. But here is the flip side of all of this, and this is where it gets really interesting. Section 4. How ethics creates competitive advantage. This is the part that surprises most business students. Ethics is not just the right thing to do. It is also smart strategy. Companies with strong ethical cultures consistently outperform their less ethical competitors over the long term. Here is why. When employees trust their organization and feel proud of where they work, they are more engaged, more productive, and more loyal. High employee turnover is incredibly expensive. Recruiting, training, and lost productivity add up fast. Ethical companies retain talent better, which directly improves their bottom line. Customers are also becoming more ethically conscious than ever before. Studies show that a growing number of consumers actively choose brands that align with their values and abandon companies that act unethically. Reputation has always mattered, but in the age of social media, it matters more than ever, because a single ethical failure can go viral overnight and reach millions of people within hours. Ethical businesses also tend to face fewer regulatory problems, fewer lawsuits, and fewer crises, all of which are expensive and disruptive. And they attract better business partners, because other ethical companies want to work with people they can trust. So ethics and profit are not opposites. Done right, they reinforce each other. But how do you actually build an ethical organization? What does that look like in practice? Section 5. Building an ethical business culture. Building ethics into a business is not about hanging a values poster in the break room. It requires consistent, deliberate action at every level of the organization. It starts with clear codes of conduct, written guidelines that spell out what the company expects from everyone, from the CEO to the newest hire. But a code of conduct is only as powerful as its enforcement. If violations go unaddressed, the code becomes meaningless. Consistent accountability is everything. Ethical businesses also create safe channels for employees to raise concerns without fear of retaliation, what are called whistleblower protections. Research shows that most unethical behavior is known about internally long before it becomes public. Creating psychological safety for employees to speak up is one of the most important things a company can do. Training matters too. Ethics training helps employees recognize ethical dilemmas before they become disasters, and gives them frameworks for making better decisions under pressure. And finally, leadership must model the behavior they expect every single day, because culture is not built by policy, it is built by example. Here is the bottom line. Ethics in business is not a luxury or a feel-good extra. It is a fundamental requirement for sustainable success. Companies that understand this build stronger teams, earn deeper customer loyalty, avoid costly crises, and ultimately create more lasting value for everyone around them. You now understand what business ethics actually means, what shapes ethical decisions, what unethical behavior truly costs, how ethics creates competitive advantage, and what it takes to build an ethical culture from the ground up. Now here is something to think about. Can you remember a time when a company you trusted did something that felt wrong to you? What did you do? Did you walk away, or did you stay? Drop your answer in the comments below. I want to hear your story. If this video helped you think differently about business, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you want to keep learning concepts like this in plain, clear language. And share this with someone studying business or management. This is the kind of foundation that makes everything else make sense. See you in the next one.